is a photograph here of Nana with Granny. But most of it I don't even know who they are. This one, that's a nice photograph, isn't it? When I was due to be born, my great-great-grandmother was dying. The family had been warned she only had days to live, and she was a stubborn lady. She said, "I'm not going until the baby is born." And I was born on the 15th of December, and she died on the 20th. So for 5 days, we were 5 generations. Myself, my mother, my grandmother, her father, and her father's mother, my great-great-grandmother. So for 5 days we were 5 generations, which is quite unusual, I expect. My maternal grandfather was a senior officer at the court of Emperor Franz Joseph in Vienna. And my paternal grandfather had worked, was part of a family that had an Austrian-Hungarian background as well, because his grandmother was Natalie Czajke of a prominent Hungarian family. But the German occupation was very, very stressful in Trieste, all sorts of horrors that are best forgotten, for the about 10 months or so that the German army occupied Trieste. I was able to obtain a job with the Royal Navy in the Wittling office, and that is the reason I'm here now in England, because at George VI birthday parade and a big ball in the evening in the Lord Tristino Palace, where my father had worked as personnel officer, one of the officers I worked with introduced me to one of their friends, and that was Jack. And so that's how it all worked out. As I said, I met Jack on the 5th of May, and that was amusing because his ship, which was St. Brides's Bay, was moored along the jetty where my office was. And Jack, who was a gunnery officer and divisional officer, was practicing for the Queen's birthday parade on the seafront. And I was walking to work every day, and Jack was parading his sailors, and every time he see me, he say, "Eyes left." Then when I met him at last, he said that was an excuse so he could get a good look at me. So when we first went to the register office, he said, "Oh, darling, I got bad news." I said, "You changed your mind, or what's happening?" He said, "No, but I must be on board ship at 5 o'clock in the morning, the day after tomorrow. So we only have one night in Venice." And came back 10 days later from exercises. And then, by then, he had found accommodation, and we had a week in a hotel. And then we would walk to work together. He to my ship, me to my office. And my boss called me in and said, "Sit down, Edda." I said, "Sounds ominous." "Oh yes, I just got a message. Jack's ship has sailed on to Gibraltar." And then I didn't see him again until a year after our marriage, when his ship was refitting in Malta, and he said, "Come over and join me whilst the ship is being refitted." And I went to talk to the captain and said, "Can you please take me to Malta?" He thought I was mad. And he said, "Well, I would love to, my dear. I'm really moved by what you're telling me. You've been married nearly a year, and you only saw your husband for 2 weeks, but we only got 2 cabins, and for the captain and first lieutenant. And the first lieutenant said, "Oh, I can't allow that. She can have my cabin. I'll go and sleep in the hold with the crew." And so I sailed to Malta in this little ship. And in the Adriatic we hit a huge gale, and we had to shelter in one little island off the Dalmatian coast. And then Jack got a message, SS Nando, expected time of arrival 10 o'clock on the 15th of December, which was my 21st birthday, carrying so and so many diving floats, so many tons of frozen meat and Mrs. Ray. And then we spent 6 weeks in Malta, and then his ship sailed again, and he put me on a troop ship to go and stay with his family. And that was the first time I saw England.